to improve the quality of your life. Now, that may be a health issue. So you could focus on health and a specific issue, but it may be any of these other things. And one of the challenges we have with limbic arc, and I think everybody who's used it can appreciate, is sometimes the changes that occur are so subtle and so I don't know exactly the right word, but they're tangential. In other words, I'm interested in solving this problem, but along the journey, it solved some other peripheral problems that I really wasn't thinking about. And because I wasn't thinking about them, I didn't even notice that they got fixed. And so I'm not going to say limbic arc helped those things, because it may not have fixed the exact thing that I was interested in. My point is, that's the value of keeping the journal. And remember to, let me click to this next slide, to make it a 60-day experience.
I know that for me, Doctor, sometimes I get focused on things that maybe have deeper issues that you know, I want to be outside, but maybe my challenge isn't my desire to be outside and to be out, you know, experiencing nature and other things. It's just that I've got some other things that have cluttered that keep me busy. And so what in your example here, if I'm focusing on spending a little more time, you know, experiencing life from a natural perspective in nature, maybe one of the side effects is I get other things in my life sorted out to where I can, right? And so, yeah.
I mean, an example, George, could be that maybe you don't like the cold.
Yeah.
And so you put on your Info Boost, and in a couple of weeks, somebody gives you a brand new warm coat. And you go, that certainly couldn't have anything to do with limbic arc. But now that you got that coat, you put it on and go, gosh, this is so toasty, I think I'll go outside. Right. And all of a sudden you're enjoying outside because the cold's not an issue for you anymore, because somebody gave you a coat.
It's amazing when we put things out to the universe, how,
yeah. And you mentioned energy posture changing, and I think you did. Maybe you did the other day, and I didn't mention it, but I didn't remember it. Anyway, let me tell you what happens.
Okay.
If you do this experiment, and you start to notice a change, an improvement in the quality of your life, it has an impact beyond just you. And the reason it does is because each of us as humans, on average, have a sphere of influence of 150 people. Now, that means that if I am happy, I will directly impact 150 people with that happiness. If I am sad and grumpy and grouchy, I will directly impact the lives of 150 people, because on average, that's what our sphere of influence is. So if you can improve the quality of your life by virtue of this energy field phenomenon, you will improve the quality of life for 150 different people.
Wow.
And if enough of us do that, we have a happier world.
Yeah.
So you can see that globe is happy.
Yes, that's a happy face.
Okay, I'm going to stop.
That answers my question, Dr. Cook, too, because, you know, when we were looking at the quality of life issues that you talked about, there are some that seem to be outside of our control. And you know, when we focus on those with our Spark scan, that's how it makes a change. If there are things, you know, with laws or where we live, the country that we live in, and things that are happening, if we change and we influence that many people and they change, then magical things can happen. I mean, we literally can change the world.
Yeah, we can. You know, the other thing that could happen, George, and I'll mention this because it has happened to me.
Mm-hmm.
You may look around and be concerned about something that's going on, let's say with government. And and you're worried and you're fretting and you're brooding and you're spending a lot of energy. And then you come to the realization that, well, I'm not going to be able to solve that problem. And all of a sudden, you take that energy that you've been investing in this problem that you can't solve, and you then redirect it to some aspect of your life, problem or an issue that you actually can impact.
Okay.
And again, that's one of those things that's subtle, but I'm not saying you stop caring, but you stop wasting and worrying about something that wasting and worrying about is not going to help.
Right.
You invest that energy in a productive way. So
yeah,
it's all about quality of life.
Well, thank you, Dr. Cook. I appreciate it, and what a good reminder as we start, 2023 for sure. But Dr. Cook, I know that we've got some questions. I'd love to go through a couple of questions. By the way, thank you for the people who send our questions in to Ask Dr. Cook at limbicarc.com. I mean, we love the questions and we like to deal with them. And sometimes there are some that are just fun to talk with in more of a public setting, because I know that they have a little more broad reach than normal. So let's go ahead. We've got a few questions. We'll move through the very first one. Has to do with, let me just read it. When I ask my friends their processes for setting up InfoBoost, I get several different answers. And some people would set up a custom InfoBoost before any of the others. So they do a custom InfoBoost first. Other people would select only the top 10 boost ingredients on their Spark scan and not the others. And then some people are saying that you should run an InfoBoost for 24 hours, and some people say you should do it longer. So I guess, Dr. Cook, there are a lot of people that use it in a lot of different ways. What are your suggestions for using Limbic Arc, especially for somebody?
Well, George, all of these answers are good, but that doesn't mean that they're good for you. And the cool thing about Limbic Arc is you can experiment. If you want to say, look, I want to turn on, all of the boost ingredients. I don't do that, but some people do, and they like it. I don't do it because I think it's too much, but that doesn't mean I'm right in your case. It may be that it's appropriate for you.
Right.
And you can experiment. I mean, I know that some of our Limbic Arc users have experimented with the Energy Info Boost and the Calm Info Boost, and they've found that they can boost their energy in the morning and they can slow down and sleep better at night by alternating those within a 24-hour period. So what I would say is just experiment with it. Now, if it's a first-time person, I just introduced my friend to Limbic Arc. So I set him up on my friends and family, and I said, okay, here we're going to do an Info Boost. I would walk them through the process. What is something that you would like to see improve or change that affects your quality of life? And then I would tell them about, talk specifically. So I would do a custom or a Spark scan. I always do those. And then I would have them take at least the top 10. But again, you could even, you could take the top one thing if you wanted to.
Right.
But then I would follow up with them, because my experience is that most people do not get a miracle. In other words, most people don't get a profound change that they go, holy moly's, this is amazing. They get subtle, they get very, gradual changes. And so I would then follow up with my friend after however many days we set that Info Boost up for, and I would help them do the next Info Boost.
Okay. I know that for me, Dr. Cook, recently I was traveling, and I felt like I needed a little boost. I felt like, how you feel like you're starting to get a little bit sick and you're starting to be affected by stuff. And so I only had about a 10-minute window of internet access. And so I put an immunity Info Boost just as quick as I could, and just didn't do a Spark scan, just did a boost, and just because I was constrained by time. And I have to say, it made a difference for me, big time. And so I think that customizing and personalizing is part of the fun Limbic Arc and InfoBoost, because you find out what works for you.
But as you mentioned, it's not always necessary.
Yeah.
So you don't have to do a Spark to have it work.
Right.
So I guess the answer is feel free to experiment. What works for you might not work for your friend, but don't be afraid to share what works for you with your friend.
Right.
Just say, hey, this works for me, but if you want to do it a different way, you can do it.
Awesome. All right, let's move on. I know that we've got a few more questions here. Okay, this is about Spark scans. What should I do when my Spark scan results have boost ingredients listed that I know that I'm allergic to?
A couple of things. First of all, remember that this is not the same as taking that substance. You're not exposing yourself to a physical chemical with an InfoBoost. You're accessing an information pattern, and that information pattern can have a different impact on you than the physical item would. If, however, you are concerned, all you have to do is uncheck that item and not include it in your InfoBoost. And feel free to do that. I mean, you don't want to throw your own good judgment out the window. So use your own good judgment. But if you turn on something you know you're allergic to, you might be surprised that the effect is positive as opposed to negative. But if you're concerned, then just turn it off.
Just turn it off. Okay.
Yeah.
Be careful. Be cautious with that. And I love how you say use your own good judgment, because I think inherently we should trust ourselves a little bit more than we do.
Yeah.
Great. Okay. Let's see if we can grab another question here. When setting up an InfoBoost, in what situations would I want to bypass the Spark scan?
Well, George, I think your example is a good one. That is, you had a very short window and you wanted to make sure you got the InfoBoost turned on. So you just went in and turned it on. You didn't worry about the Spark.
Right.
The preset InfoBoosts are comprised of items that have a known benefit. The physical item has a known benefit in the area of whatever that InfoBoost is. So if you have the pain relief InfoBoost, those items have a known benefit to reduce pain.
Okay.
So you can take any of those and know that it's going to have some benefit in the direction of whatever that InfoBoost is. The advantage of the Spark scan is it just customizes that and it prioritizes those things, so you get an idea of what is the highest priority or the highest outcome ratio versus the lowest. And so you might be, I would expect you then would be more inclined to pick the ones that would be most appropriate for you.
Okay.
But any of those would work. And sometimes you say, well, let's say that you got an injury. And you say, well, I know that arnica, which is a homeopathic remedy, I know arnica 6X is good for recovery from injuries.
Right.
You don't need to do a Spark scan to go in and find arnica 6X and turn it on in an InfoBoost. You can do that just because you know that that's a good thing to use. So that's another time when you wouldn't need to do a Spark scan.
And, that's a really good point, Dr. Cook, that we do this all the time with things in our diet where we choose to take things just